Hello again, this is Great Work, a podcast and email helping people who do work we care about have better working lives and do more good. With me, Adam Sandel. We're going to talk about timeboxing this time, and I've got a book review for you. Are you sometimes overwhelmed by all you need to get done? Important seeming things often sit on my to-do today list for weeks until I eventually abandon them. Are you daunted by your list of things to do? Well, the most important change of perspective may be the realization that most of these things are never going to get done, and that's fine. The definitive book about all of this is 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. If you struggle with how much you have to do and you haven't read 4,000 Weeks, you really should. But we still need to get some stuff done. And if you want an approach to that, a structure for getting way more done while looking after yourself and being realistic about how much you truly can get done, the only techniques that really work all seem to be based on some sort of time boxing or time blocking. I recently returned to time boxing after a lapse of a few years, and I'm wondering why I lost the faith. Now, I'll be honest, this isn't for everyone, but it makes me and many others way more productive and more relaxed and rested. And you don't have to go all in. You'll benefit from doing just a bit. So what is time boxing? Well, the idea is simple. Each day, when your head's clear, perhaps first thing in the morning, you decide what your priorities are for that day. Maybe a project, work or life. Tasks, rest, time with people who matter to you, exercise, the administration of life, and the other important stuff. This is obviously for those parts of the day or those days over which you have some flexibility. If you're a teacher with 7 scheduled hours or a nurse working a 12-hour shift, you could time box outside of those days or your unscheduled days. Then you block out realistic amounts of time throughout the day for those priorities you identified. You feed things from your to-do list into a calendar in relatively small chunks of time. At 9 a.m., half an hour for this, followed by an hour and a half for that, then an hour of this. If your priority today is to spend the first 6 hours mooching around in your dressing gown, time box that so it doesn't get intruded upon by the bothersome work email you're otherwise tempted to reread. Or, unless this is what you subsequently decide, by a spur-of-the-moment plan to tackle a DIY job. And then you follow those blocks of time, focusing only on what you'd planned to do, modifying the plan as needed if something takes longer than planned or if your schedule gets derailed. And that's more or less it. Why would you do this? Well, it has 3 huge benefits. First, it forces you to be realistic about what you can get done in a day. My own time management Achilles heel is being wildly unrealistic about how much I can get done, and then feeling disappointed with myself at the end of the day when I haven't achieved the impossible. With time boxing, you quickly learn that, for example, it'll take about 8 hours to write this article, record the podcast, and get it all ready to go out, not the 2 hours I began by allocating to it. Secondly, it allows you to prioritize the things that most matter, controlling those things that otherwise colonize a large chunk of your day. Remember Parkinson's law, that tasks expand to fill the time you make available to them. Time boxing helps you ensure you actually get to the exercise you meant to get, or the rest that's necessary to be more productive, or the time that you wanted to spend with your partner or your kids. And thirdly, it focuses you fully on one thing at a time, knowing you've made time elsewhere in the day for the other stuff on your mind. In 4,000 Weeks, Oliver Burkeman writes that the real measure of any time management technique is whether or not it helps you neglect the right things. That's the strength of timeboxing, leaving you more focused on what matters most. If it's not for your typical work days because you're the teacher with the full day of classes, the manager with a day of meetings, or me in the clinic or emergency room, it may be particularly valuable for your days off that otherwise get consumed by chores at the expense of true leisure, or for holidays where you find it hard to unwind because of the shapelessness of the day, or, I suspect, for retirement or sabbaticals when those familiar with the structure of work often struggle. Does this all sound horrible? For some, including me, the thought of having things planned to this level is constraining, perhaps even stressful. I often want to be able to roll with how I'm feeling, be spontaneous, not micromanage myself or fit my days into tiny boxes on a calendar. But we do have to do some thinking about how to balance what we want to get done today and this week if we want it remotely to reflect our wishes, including for rest and leisure, which tend to be marginalized. You can always alter your plan during the day, and the returns from timeboxing are immense. It's not magic, but it may be the best way of ensuring that you do, in fact, have the day and, cumulatively, live the life that you want. To the extent that it's a bit finicky, well, maybe that's a price worth paying. And of course, you can do it as much or as little as you want. Just your mornings, your exercise, your social media use, or the spare time writing of your novel. Timeboxing probably can add to your stress if you approach it as another thing you have to do rather than as a helpful tool. The trick, I think, is to recognize that if it starts going awry, you need to modify your approach. If, like me, you tend to wildly underestimate how long things will take, learn and recalibrate. By making me more realistic, it's actually reduced my stress about getting things done. If it makes you feel you're rushing from one thing to another, loosen it up and build in more time to relax. Here are some of the effects you'll notice if you start doing it. It makes you reflect on and then prioritize whatever's most important to you. It helps you ensure you build enough rest into each day. Remember the core great work idea that you'll get more done and do it better if you take rest more seriously. It greatly reduces rapid switching between tasks, which research shows is much more cognitively draining than we realize. It's much easier to ignore notifications and interruptions if you know that you're focusing on something for 45 minutes and can check after that. It makes it easy to schedule and therefore contain your internet time. If you're someone who can't resist checking your email inbox every 10 minutes, or who inexplicably hasn't disabled notifications for new emails and then looks at email the moment it arrives, you could probably schedule 15 minutes every hour for email and still be more productive and less drained by the end of the day. It works nicely alongside the Pomodoro technique. This, if you're not familiar with it, is a simple and startlingly effective strategy for work where you need to focus. At its simplest, you use a timer to work in 25-minute blocks. After each 25 minutes of work, you have a 5-minute break, or every so often, longer. Each break clears your head and you work and feel way better. And it helps you use your leisure time the way you want to be using it, instead of filling it with chores or distractions and never doing the meaningful, nourishing things you really want to be doing with your time off. I wonder whether, for those who, like me, are prone to grazing, it also helps with healthier eating habits. You know what you're doing next, so there's less reason to distract yourself by looking to see if there's anything appealing in the fridge. Timeboxing's not perfect. It bothers me when the plan starts going awry, as of course plans do. The book I'm about to recommend has good strategies for dealing with this. And I sometimes feel a rebellious resistance to begin a time-boxed task that in a less planned day I might have turned to willingly. Perhaps I'm still not planning enough leisure. But the measure isn't, does it solve all my problems perfectly? The measure, and here I'm going to depart a little from Oliver Burkeman, is, does it significantly improve my life? And the answer to that, for me, is, oh wow, yes. My return to timeboxing coincided conveniently with the recent publication of a book about it, Timeboxing, The Power of Doing One Thing at a Time, by Mark Zao-Sanders. As regular listeners know, Great Work has me reading a lot of prescriptive, how-to non-fiction on life and work. Getting to the point often involves hours of wading through cherry-picked stories about successful US business people and sports people, when the book's point could sometimes be better expressed in 20 well-written pages. Timeboxing, the book, exemplifies how to write a useful book about a good idea. It's intelligent, well-structured, concise, and elegantly written. Zao-Sanders has thought deeply about the whys and hows of timeboxing and about what derails real people from spending our time the way we want to. And it contains more wisdom than I was expecting. It takes a day-by-day approach. There's also a week-by-week timeboxing approach, familiar to many from Stephen Covey's enduring 1989 book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Covey advocates for a weekly focus, and I think it can achieve a better balance of priorities and tasks. And Zao-Sanders' timeboxing book may be best served alongside Oliver Burkeman's idea, which he's written about in 4,000 Weeks and elsewhere, about the liberating necessity of accepting the impossibility of getting everything done. But if you are interested in how timeboxing could help you and would like a guide to implementing it, this is the book. It's one I'm adding to the Great Work recommended reading list. Videos. As regular listeners know, to get my own Great Work book published, I need to grow this podcast and newsletter substantially. The message people keep on telling me is, put short videos on social media. So, with the help of a talented Gen Z friend, I'm cautiously, because I don't want to get sucked in and I don't want anyone else to get sucked in, cautiously dipping my toe into that water with clips about Great Work ideas. So, if you're on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube Shorts, do consider following me. I'm easy to find. That's it for this time. Thanks to Bren Russell for his skillful editing of this, and a big thanks to you for being part of the Great Work community. If you're getting this via a podcast app or YouTube, do sign up for the emails, which you can do at www.adamsandell.com. That's AdamSandell.com. That way, you'll get the podcasts emailed to you when they come out, embedded in an email you can read if you prefer. And it's the link to share if you know anyone else who might be interested. Thank you so much for listening.